Hello and welcome to the Modern Music Mixing course. Today we're going to be learning about dynamic track spacing and how you can use it to get clarity in your mixes. Let's get into the session. Okay, so one area I want to highlight is the relationship between the kick and the bass guitar. Now this is a very important relationship because the kick and the bass guitar are both going to be providing low end for the mix. The kick is going to be doing it transiently, so it's going to be hitting and then very shortly it's gone, and the bass guitar is going to be doing it more in a sustained way. So the trick is we want the thump of the kick to basically cut through the bass guitar, and we want the bass to come back and give us that nice sustained low end for our mix. So what we're going to use is a dynamic EQ here. And we've essentially set it up using a sidechain, and from here we are then enabling this little send here, where if I click here I'll show you where it's coming from. It's actually going to the bass track, and that's coming into neutron here. What this is going to do is every single time the kick hits, it's actually going to suppress that sound. So what I want to do is take this from -8 to 0, and I want to do mask, and I've selected the kick here, which is essentially identifying this neutron here, which we currently have in bypass. Let's unbypass it. So down here is the kick drum, and up here is the bass guitar. Let's take a look at what is happening in terms of masking between these two instruments. So this little white area is showing us that there's some masking happening here. Now music is messy and there's always going to be masking somewhere, but what we want to try to do is try and improve that clarity without losing anything. So it's kind of like having your cake and eating it. So what we're going to do is set this back to -8. And when we're setting up neutron, you have to click it into dynamic mode, compress, and then you would pick external band 1. So it's saying we want to take an external signal. In this case, we're taking the signal coming here from the kick track. And I'll show you what this is going to do now. So you can see it's subtly compressing the low end of the bass guitar every time the kick comes in. And I'm just going to really accentuate this now. That's -30 on the threshold. So you can hear that sucking out all the low end of the kick drum. So obviously you would set this in a way which is quite transparent, so you can't actually hear the low end of the bass guitar getting sucked out. Just enough that it's going to allow the kick drum to really come through and cut through in terms of its thump sort of sound. Okay, let's listen to that in the context of the entire mix and see if it helps our kick drum just cut through a little bit more. Okay, so I think what we heard then was a fairly subtle improvement. It was just making a little bit more room for the thump of that kick drum to cut through the mix. Okay, so now what I want to do is show you some cool ways that you can use this method. And we've set up a few demos. Now these aren't things that I actually did in this mix, but they're things that I want to show you that you could possibly use in your tracks. So the first thing I want to show you is this method where we use the snare drum to duck the room track. So here's the room track. I'll just solo myself here. Here's the room track. So we're going to use the snare drum to essentially cause the room track to duck in the mids and then swell back on the sustains. So we're going to get a very tight, punchy, close mic sound. And then as soon as that close mic is out of the way, the rooms are going to come back in. So this is really useful for like a metal type drum style or a rock type drum style. Now I didn't use it, but I just want to demonstrate it as an example. So at the end of our chain here, I'm just going to add in neutron. I'm going to use the equalizer. And let's just name this rooms, because we have our overheads and our room mic coming into this group track. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set it into sidechain. Now it's different in every DAW, but in Cubase, that's how you do it. You just click this little sidechain icon here. Then this is going to allow it to pop up in the sends area. So we can click on here, click sidechain, and you can see here we have rooms, which is using this name here. Click this and set that up. Okay, now that send is set up here, what we can do is we can take an EQ band, set it into dynamic mode, compress, and we can use external full. And this is essentially taking it's receiving the send from the snare drum here. So this is what it's going to do. So you can see it's compressing the room only on the snare drum being hit. You can actually hear the room kind of being pulled out and then quickly swelling back in now. Okay, and what we can also do is essentially add the kick drum to this now. So we can set to that will be both the kick drum and the snare coming into here. And you could go one step further, you could take the toms, in this case I have a tom group. So anytime the tom comes in, you could have the toms just bringing out the roominess of the room mics. Now the effect of this is you're going to get a really interesting close mic sound for the drums, and then as soon as those close mics have died off and gotten out the way, it's going to allow the room mics to come back and all that room is going to come flooding back. Okay, another demo I want to show you is how we might use it for a vocal. So obviously when you're mixing, the clarity of a lead vocal is very important. Now what we're going to do is something quite extreme. It's something I've never really used in any of my productions, but again I'm just showing you some creative uses for this technique. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be telling the vocal lead to dynamically EQ our whole rhythm section. So just so you know, this is what our rhythm section is. It consists of the guitar, the electric piano, all of the pianos which make up our main piano group, and this is what it sounds like. And here they are interacting with the lead vocal. You do have a way with me. You and I have a love. Actually get to a chorus. I'll lift you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to tell the rhythm section keep out the way of the vocal. Now I didn't use this in the final mix. I am just showing you essentially some uses for it. So let's go to our rhythm group here and set up a dynamic EQ with Neutron. Obviously there are other plugins other than Neutron that can do this. This is just my preference. Let's call this rhythm. Once again, set this to sidechain. And now that's set to sidechain, we can go to the vocal lead and actually look for that in our little sidechains area. Okay, and there it is. So what we do want to do is essentially get a mask so that we can figure out where the problem frequencies may be. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add another neutron to the lead vocal. The reason we're doing this is so that we can use it to speak with the neutron on our rhythm section so that we can figure out where masking is happening. So where there's some fighting between the rhythm section and the vocal lead. So let's call this vocal masking. If I can spell. There we go. We will go back to the rhythm section and simply select vocal masking. Now we can play this through and we can figure out where the problem frequencies are. I left you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there for you if you need me. You know I'm there. I left you. So you can see a little bit in the chesty frequencies here and a lot on these sort of mid treble areas here. So let's go and select those now. I left you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there for you if you need me. You know I'm there. I left you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I think I'll set it up like that for now. Right, so all I'm going to do is set these so they're taking away. And let's just set them up quite aggressive right now. And firstly, let's go to compress. Do this and select external full. Okay, now that that's set up, let's put both the thresholds all the way up. And just sort of slowly bring them down until we start hearing it sucking that information out of the rhythm section. I left you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. So you can see the vocal coming in here. So there you can hear how much it just thinned out that rhythm section. Obviously, the art of doing this is to do it in such a way that it should be very transparent. You do not want to hear the vocal thinning out the rhythm section if what you're doing is track spacing. I left you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there for you if you need me. You know I'm there. So all that top end detail's gone on the rhythm section during that. I left you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there for you if you need me. You know I'm there. I left you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there for you if you need me. Yeah, so just bypassed it then. You can definitely hear it just clear the way for the vocal just a little bit. Let's listen to this in the context of the mix. I left you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there. Oh, just for a moment, let's just mute all these vocals just to really focus on just the lead vocal. I left you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there for you if you need me. You know I'm there. one more time.
I'll lift you. I'll be there for you if you need me. I'll be there just for you. I'll be there for you if you need me. You know I'm there.
Definitely get just that little bit more clarity in the lead vocal. Now, I'm not a fan of like messing with the natural dynamics in the rhythm section, but if what you want is that real clarity in your lead vocal, then this is something that you could use. Just got to be careful that you are quite transparent with it. And of course, you can use this creatively to achieve certain effects. So go and take this technique and see what you can do with it. Okay, that is dynamic track spacing. I'm really interested to hear your uses for this type of technique. So if you have an interesting way that you use this type of thing, please let me know in the comments. But that's going to be everything for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time.